Democratic Senator Joe Manchin has been one of the most vocal opponents and critics of increasing the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. And now we have a better understanding of his own personal financial interests that are influencing his war against paying people what they deserve to make. Now, Manchin justified his opposition to the $15 an hour minimum wage by saying the senator understands the challenges facing West Virginia small business owners, but Manchin has not publicly acknowledged that he's one of those small business owners. So TYT Investigates did a great job. This is Jonathan Larson's reporting to kind of figure out, what kind of stakes Manchin has in this fight. And here's what we know: court filings related to bankruptcy proceedings and a Manchin family dispute that went public have identified some of the companies in which Manchin allegedly had a financial stake, including a hotel and a chain of flooring stores. Both companies would apparently have to increase employee pay if Congress passes a $15 an hour minimum wage. Now, the most relevant company in this reporting has to do with something known as either AA property, AA property, and Manchin owns 50% of that company. Okay, so as TYT Investigates reports, AA property is reportedly 50% controlled by Manchin and is an investor in Emerald Coast Realty, which owns a La Quinta Hotel in Elkview, West Virginia. At the Elkview La Quinta, Indeed reports that housekeepers make an average of $8.81 an hour. So imagine if they have to increase the minimum wage there to $15 an hour. Obviously, this would have not only an impact on this business, but it could have an impact on the return of investment for someone like Joe Manchin. There are other details that I'll share with you in just a minute, but Cenk, are you surprised by any of this?
Of course not, of course not. So now these senators have started double dipping. So in the old days, it used to be just that the donor contributions would go to them, millions of dollars at a time. We have nonstop stories about that, including $9 million from big pharma, 36 million from healthcare insurance industry going to Republican senators on a particular committee. I mean, they're buying these guys wholesale, it's super obvious. But now they also have their own financial interests. So you saw Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue just raking in money during COVID times because they had insider information on how they could make more money, so they transacted on the stock market based on that. Their fellow corrupt senators were like, oh yeah, I'd love to do that too, so they let them off the hook. But they did do it, and the voters of Georgia did not let them off the hook, by the way. So now Manchin, it turns out, is fighting against the minimum wage partly because he'd have to pay higher wages. So look, there's two aspects of that. And number one, I'd love to see their books. I know they're not going to show the books to us, but I bet you that this is a well-established, mature industry. It's not a new industry, it's not a young industry. And in those kind of industries, the profit margins are fairly stable. So I bet if I looked at those books, and I'm a business owner and I know exactly where to look, I could show you how the workers could get $15 an hour, and Manchin and his partners would still make plenty of money. But they do make more money by paying their employees less. That's just a fact. So every time he blocks a minimum wage bill, Joe Manchin gets richer. That's just an absolute fact, okay? And now the second part of the thing that Anna just read you is the average worker at that place is getting $8.81. Do you wanna know what the minimum wage in West Virginia is? $8.75. Now, what does that tell you?
They're so generous. They're very generous. They're paying cents more per hour, Cenk. Be grateful.
Yeah. So whatever the minimum wage is, that's what people are gonna pay, okay? There'll be some mom and pop shops who are good guys and who'll pay more. But overall, most corporations and companies, whether they're gigantic or small, will unfortunately grind you down to the bare minimum. So look at that. They're paying on average, only 6 cents more than the minimum wage. So all of those workers will get a giant wage hike, an increase in their salaries. if we pass the federal minimum wage to $15. That's why Joe Manchin thinks that's my money. You're not going to touch my money. He's going to vote no.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we talk a lot about money in politics, and it's definitely a pretty obviously a corrupting factor in our political system. There's no question about that, and we need to get the money out. But there's a second half to that I don't think is discussed enough, and that's exactly what this story covers. There's a huge problem right now with Congress members being invested in individual stocks, having these types of business investments and ownership of certain private companies. If you want to be a public servant, then be an actual public servant. You have to divest from individual stocks, and you have to divest from these types of businesses, because clearly it serves as a giant conflict of interest. And you're a lawmaker who's supposed to be making ethical decisions on behalf of your constituents, right? You're supposed to serve the best interests of your constituents. How are you going to do that if your business investments conflict with you doing your job appropriately and serving the best interests of your constituents appropriately? It's a huge problem.
Right, and Jonathan Larson in this story, and we'll have the link down below if you're watching later on YouTube or Facebook. Always check the description box because we got helpful links there, especially the articles that we talk about. Anyway, Jonathan pointed out that he might have interest in another family business. There's some conflicting reports about that, and Manchin proposed that maybe we can do a compromise and move the minimum wage not to 15, but maybe to 11. Now, you want to know what the average worker there is? It looks like, based on the estimates that Jonathan found, the average worker in that company makes $11.01. Gee, I wonder why Manchin wants to move it to $11. And then he'll get to say, what do you mean? I pay above average rates. These guys are unreal, man. And everybody's gotten so used to their corruption that nobody even questions it anymore. I mean, right. In any of the mainstream, and that's why I love TYT Investigates, and I love that you guys financed it. Have you noticed in any mainstream media articles, and thousands of them say Manchin is going to block the minimum wage, but they all paint it as like he's representing his conservative voters in West Virginia, who, by the way, polling shows are completely against him, right? Even the Republican governor of Kentucky is to his left, and they never ever clarify. Oh, by the way, Joe Manchin might literally be making money off of blocking higher wages for you.
One thing, since you mentioned the media, I just wanted to add one quick note to that. One thing that's been kind of frustrating in the coverage of the House bill that just passed, the stimulus package, reporters are pretending as if Biden's proposal from the beginning was to extend unemployment insurance benefits through June. No, that was the Republican proposal. Biden's initial proposal extended unemployment benefits through September. And now the media is just reporting on the House version of the bill as if like, oh, Republicans wanted to scale it back to the end of May, but these Democrats fought and they got it to the end of June. No, fighting means that you get unemployment insurance benefits extended through September as originally planned, and don't pretend like Democrats didn't cave on that issue. They certainly did cave on that issue. I bring it up because it's, sometimes we have these discussions about whether it's just negligence, maybe it's an oversight issue, like what's going on. But they know it wasn't so long ago that corporate media was reporting that Biden wanted the unemployment benefits to be extended through September. Literally in mid-February, they were reporting that. And now all of a sudden they're pretending like that was never the case. I don't know if they know, but the internet exists. I can look up the older articles and provide the evidence, which I did on Twitter.
Yeah, and politicians haven't caught on to that, but partly because they have a mainstream media establishment protection racket for them. So now they're just changing facts on behalf of corporate politicians. It's absurd. I mean, the mainstream media acts like it was born yesterday. They're like, oh, the parliamentarian. Obviously, the parliamentarian in our system of government controls everything, obviously. But wait a minute, we never talked about the parliamentarian before. And for Trump, we never discussed it once. For the Bush tax cuts, they fired the parliamentarian and the VP did whatever the hell he wanted. VP Dick Cheney, shocking that he did that. Is anybody noting that? Now, finally, independent media is forcing that into the conversation, but mainstream media was like, I don't know what you're talking about. No, I was born yesterday. And so I believe the Republicans and the corporate Democrats when they tell me the parliamentarian rules everything in Congress, even though it never has before. Oh, come on.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.